Welcome back. A civil rights attorney based in Michigan says he was targeted by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents because he represented a pro-Palestine protester. Amir Makled says he was detained while returning from an international family vacation for about 90 minutes at the Detroit Metro Airport, and while there, in that detention, brief though it was, pressured to turn over his cell phone. Now, in response to this accusation, the Assistant Commissioner for U.S. Customs and Border Patrol said this, and I quote, "This lawyer's accusations are blatantly false and sensationalized. Upon entering the country, he was flagged and referred to secondary inspection, a routine, lawful process that occurs daily and can apply to any traveler." It goes on to say, and I quote, "Claims that this was an attack on his profession or were politically motivated are baseless. Our officers are following the law, not agendas." Amir Makled joins me now. Amir, it's great to have you with us. Thank you. You heard that response from the administration. You're familiar with it. What's your response to that characterization?
Well, thanks for having me. I say that this is not a routine stop. When I arrived at the border crossing, the Customs and Border Patrol sent me in for secondary screening, and they used an acronym called TTRT, which standed for Tactical Terrorism Response Team. An officer came to me wearing plain clothes, refusing to identify himself, and knew about my travel history, knew about my profession, and knew about some of the recent high-profile cases I'm litigating. This wasn't a routine stop. This was a targeted stop. And the fact that they brought up my profession and they brought up the recent high-profile cases involving University of Michigan protester cases, I'm representing a student named Samantha Lewis. She's charged with a felony for resisting a police officer for the civil rights protest she engaged in on campus. These are the reasons why I believe this was a politically motivated and an intimidation tactic by the Customs and Border Patrol agents.
And Amir, as I understand it, there was a photograph. They looked at the photograph, brought you to the secondary detention space, and then started talking to you about what they knew about you. Is that true?
That's correct. They knew my travel history. They knew that I was an attorney. They knew about my caseload, and they demanded to see my cell phone. They handed me a pamphlet, and they indicated to me that at the border, which I was familiar with this statute, at the border, the government can seize a telephone. I'm not obligated to give them the password to my phone, but I also didn't want to leave the meeting or leave the airport without my device. I knew that as an American citizen, they couldn't deny me entry into the United States, so I wasn't concerned about that. However, I was concerned about leaving without my cell phone device. Then they demanded that I unlock the phone and hand over the information. And I explained to them, you already know that I'm an attorney. You already know that I'm representing individuals, and a substantial amount of my work is going to be on my cell phone. I'm not going to hand over this device and breach my fiduciary duty to attorney-client privilege. And that puzzled this agent, which required him to go get some supervising advice. A supervisor came back maybe about 20 or 30 minutes later and handed me a legal pad. He said, "Why don't you write down everything that you believe could be privileged information in your cell phone?" I said, "This is a futile exercise. I've been an attorney for over 10 years. I've got thousands of emails, thousands of text messages, thousands of communications with clients and hundreds of files in my phone on my cloud. It's impossible for me to identify what could be a privileged communication or document in this setting." And at that point, they said, "Look, either we're going to take your phone or you're going to comply." I said, "Well, what is it that you're looking for?" They said, "Show us the list of contacts in your phone, and then we'll allow you to have your phone back." So I acquiesced. They said, "Sign a document, and in this document indicate that you're agreeing that we can see your contact list and that your contact list is not a privileged information." I agreed. I wrote it down, and they went through my contact list at that point. Now, how they dumped this contact list, whether it was done through a external device or whether they manually scrolled it, I'm not sure. They took my device away from me for about 7 or 8 minutes. When they came back, they had a list of questions about individuals who were in my contact list, about 5 or 6 names. And at that point, I knew this was getting into a much deeper dive and a much more targeted investigation and line of questioning. I pushed back again. I said, "Look, if a contact is in my phone, that person is going to be a family member, a friend, or a client. And that's all the information you're going to get out of me."
Amir, I've got about a minute left, and I'm up against a hard break, so it's just a minute. What do you believe are the dangers in this scenario for you and attorneys like you?
I think it's a pattern of targeting. I think that this will cause a chilling effect and set a dangerous precedent. If journalists, if activists are being flagged and questioned at the border based on who they represent or based on what they believe, it creates a chilling effect on speech, association, and advocacy. We've seen this administration going after attorneys. I think it's important that we don't discourage people from traveling, from organizing or dissenting. We all have to follow what we have under the protections of the First Amendment.
And very quickly, your family was allowed to go through. You alone were detained.
Yes, me alone. I was alone detained, which made me feel a lot better because when the kids were gone, I can deal with the government confrontation. I do this for a living. I don't have a problem talking to law enforcement.
Amir Makled, I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.